Hello.
Hello,
Today,
hello.
hello, everybody. Today we have a program that will feature Angel Bahena Garcia, who is a nurse from Mexico. And I would like to everybody who is in the studio today introduce themselves. And Angel, I will put you solo when it comes to your time. And today we will be talking about several things. And of course, today we just celebrated Christmas. So, Christmas is an unusual celebration, maybe in some countries, but not in the United States and not in Mexico. So, Angel, we welcome you, and let's start. My camera actually froze, and I'm trying to bring everybody on the screen right now. So, um, okay, so is everybody there? Yes, okay. So, Angel, welcome and introduce yourself, please.
Well, thank you, Lydia, for having me today here. It's a great pleasure just to talk about your community from my perspective as a nurse and as a Mexican in the nursing world to start with, and then what I have seen and what I have not seen. So, I have been a nurse for a little over 2 years, I believe. And I started in the ICU in one of the busiest hospitals in town. So I got to experience lots of things, probably not directly related to the current pandemic, because I left during that first week, and then I'm going to talk about it in a little bit. But in general, that is my background, the ICU. That is where I got trained, and I got to see a lot of devastating things, which has really shaped my view about the pandemic and also how I conduct myself during this very tragic months that we are living. Uh, then currently I work in the research world. So that means that I am a research clinical coordinator, which means that basically with the doctor and we conduct the trials. I am the one who coordinates, which is my title, and I get to do the patient visits, and I get to live, all these phases that I'm sure that a lot of people have been hearing in the news when it comes to COVID, for example, and its vaccine, which my hospital does not have COVID trials. Well, my department, I would say, I work in the pulmonary department and also the sleep one. So the difference is that I do pediatrics. Okay, so then we are going to talk about what it means and how great of a world it is, to do all this research. But I said in general, I am a nurse. I am married to a nurse, and I think that in the household we have a very good understanding of what medicine is and what to expect from it. And I think that our experiences have really helped us shape our view of the pandemic and when it comes to the coronavirus and all these stay-at-home orders, which have been, beneficial in some way. Um, but yeah, so that is my background. Previously, I was a teacher. I was a high school teacher between I believe the years 2011, no 13, all the way 2016. I've taught Spanish, which is my native language, for years now, probably 10 years. Currently, I have a little business on the side, which I run myself, in which I train medical personnel so they can communicate with their patients in Spanish, just to decrease the anxiety that a lot of our Latino families encounter when they come to the doors of an ER or they go to the doors of an ICU or a med surge, which is pretty terrifying. So that is my background.
That is amazing, and it is so good to have you with us today because I know that you're such a modern guy, and you told me right away. Well, I'm not that nurse who works right in the ICU or in the hospital. I'm doing research, but though what is really important for us today here is still a cool thing. We are talking every Saturday about coping and how different people cope and people of different professions. And the reason we invited you, because first of all, I know you as a very unusual person who, as a non-American English speaker, actually got 2 degrees here. And really, besides that, you work here. You started teaching, you became an educator, and you taught at school. And you also now teaching professional nurses Spanish language, because we know that, especially in the hospital, when people are scared, especially now during COVID, and they do not speak English. It is
Yeah.
very important to have someone who has a language skill to comfort them, not just to perform treatment, right? But also comfort them and help them and assist them, find out maybe they want to connect with relatives. And so
Mhm.
language is a very important skill that also helps
Yeah.
with coping. So could you say a little about, since you mentioned that you and your wife are both nurses, and how did you learn about COVID? How did it affect you, first of all, and your relationship? What kind of conversations did you have right away in the beginning?
Yeah, definitely. So I do remember, and I gotta say that our backgrounds, I think that really helped, not only because I had just recently came out of the ICU. I remember that my last week and actually my last shift, it is when I got to see the first COVID patient roll in. So it was a very shocking moment when you see all these people dressed up as like they were working in the NASA, like with all their gear up, and it was pretty terrifying. I remember being like 3 or 4 a.m. in the morning. 'Cause I was a night nurse, and everybody, you can just feel the heaviness of the moment. So my wife also has had a previous ICU experience, and why it is important and how it shaped us or it affected us. I would say that being nurses, more than affecting us, it kind of benefit us just to understand that we didn't want this virus. My wife and I know and have been in patients' room when they get intubated, and it is something very not nice. Okay, so we see in the news that, yeah, you get intubated and you get into a ventilator, but nobody talks about the background of it. Like what happens behind it. I do remember probably a month ago, a doctor released a video about how or what a patient sees while intubating, and it looked pretty accurate. Okay, so and just to mention, or not to mention only that it is not only about putting a tube down your throat. There's like 10 people around you making noises, and you're scared, and your family might not even be there because they might get taken out of the room. And this was pre-COVID, my experiences. I'm sure that right now no family is allowed, but it is not only about putting a tube down your throat, it is also they sedate you and they paralyze your body, which pretty much they take over, they take control over your body, and they paralyze you, and they go into all day. So having that experience, really helped my wife and I be like, hey, we really need to take care of ourselves, not only here in the household, but at the healthcare level. She being a nurse, me being a nurse, working now with kiddos, really help us understand more or have a little bit more of an understanding what it could happen. All right, because we see all this, yeah, wearing a mask and all these things, but having this ICU experience really make us, in my perspective, and if you ask me, I don't want a tube down my throat, just because of what it takes. Okay, and not only putting it, but treating you with it. You lose control of your entire body, pretty much. So
But because of that, what you just said, I remember how many years ago I thought, oh, I want to be a doctor or I want to be a nurse. But then the first time I actually went to a morgue, and that was a test. Can we sustain that? Can we have actually that resilience to dead bodies and the smell and of course the professor who had that tour for us in the morgue, and I was 15. And
well,
I think it was a very cruel test. But what he said, he talked about the great chemist Mendeleev, a Russian
mhm.
chemist, scientist, who wanted to be a doctor. But that professor in the medical university said Mendeleev wanted to be a doctor, but when he first came to the morgue, he fainted. He actually
Hmm.
fell on the floor. I remember I stood near the door frame and kind of, put my shoulder against the door frame. I thought, I should not fall. I should not fall. I should not fall. I
Yeah.
didn't. But when I came home, I told my parents, you know what? I don't think I can be a doctor. I cannot handle, I just could not handle the smell and could not handle that whole process when the professor told us about all the organs and he started picking up all the organs. So when you came to the United States, you probably did not even think about becoming a nurse.
No.
How did it start? You've been an educator. You came to become a teacher. So how did it happen that you suddenly made such a shift?
Well, it is a very interesting story that, just to kind of like put it like long story short, 2006 to 2010, that was where I was in my college years in Mexico. Then I met someone that told me about a university here in the United States, and I applied to it. So I moved into a master's degree to teach Spanish. That was my world. That's all I knew. Okay. By the time I met my wife, at this time she was also a nurse, and with the time and she being a nurse and hanging out with some of her nurse friends sometimes, and some of her family members being in the medical world too, it kind of started giving me that little bug in my head, and it was like, huh. So I started training doctors and nurses. That is actually how I started it. Okay,
Oh,
so I didn't become a nurse before I became a trainer for doctors and nurses. So, and not only doctors and nurses, I gotta say that it expands to the entire thing, the spectrum of the hospital. But mainly, I work with nurses and doctors. Okay, so I came to this country. I met my wife, and I started training these people. I started reading more into medicine and how it works and what type of encounters they have, what type of visits. Then that is when I decided to go into nursing. And of course, I got the don't do it talk, but I did it anyways. And it has been a very great thing that I have done. It's something that I have added to my curriculum, which is nice, but it has taught me a lot of things, and I feel like it has really taught me to understand how to better cope with the pandemic. Okay, as I said, has helped me a lot to understand that I do not want that to.
that is very important. And if Candy and Scott have questions at this point, um, if not, I have a question to you.
No,
When
go ahead.
COVID started,
Could I
and
could
you,
I ask?
okay, go ahead, Candy, go
I
ahead.
just wanted to ask one quick question because I'm a teacher,
Cool.
and so a former teacher. I'm retired now, but I'm just curious why someone would encourage you not to go into nursing. Because I had people encourage me, don't be a teacher, you won't make any money. So what was their story? What were they saying to you, do you think?
Well,
Good
um,
question.
nursing is a very beautiful profession, but it really wears down on you really fast.
Okay.
So it's years and years, like of being there. As I said, it's a beautiful profession, but when you're at a bedside, in my case, as I said, my only bedside experience was in the ICU.
Right.
So I was in the highest level of care, and my entire shift I was looking at a monitor with a heart rate going down and up, blood pressure going down and up. So it wears down on you. And I'm not only saying that for the ICU, it's med surg, it's any floor, it can wear down on you. Okay, so yeah, ICU nurses are great working with critically patients, but sometimes we admire med surg people because they are able to take the load of 5, 6, 7 patients.
Right.
An ICU doesn't know what to do
Can
with
I
7
would
patients.
I would say one more thing because I so admire you, and I admire you for your story already, and I don't even know that much about it. But the fact that you're a nurse and a teacher and you're in research and you're bilingual, to me, you're a rock star right now. Thank you. I
Yeah,
appreciate
thank you.
it.
Yeah, something that I have to say about that bilingualism is that it is true that Latinos sometimes do not, like me, I did not see the advantages of it. Okay, so I just came to this country. Oh, I'm a Spanish teacher. I'm gonna teach you Spanish.
Mhm.
Cool. But then when I went into the nursing world, my wife was like, "Hey, just FYI, you are one of a kind,
Mhm.
and you
Yeah.
gotta find the right place and sometimes the right salary because there's hospitals that pay more for
Sure.
having this skill. Right now in my
Yeah.
current job, they give me a stipend, but it's just like I didn't know how to how my language was super valuable in this country, and it has become a great tool not only for my doctors and nurses that I train, but for my own patients. I remember in the unit being assigned to Spanish speaking patients only, and the greatest thing is that we do have interpreters, and we have something called the blue phone. It is actually a blue phone. It's color blue. That's why they call it the blue phone. That is where the line from someone in Colorado answers, or
Oh,
stuff like that. And a lot of people know that patients and family do not want to talk to the blue phone
no.
and have that like less interactive moment.
Oh,
Right.
Okay, so it is a great tool to have, and the person that taught me how to put more value into it was definitely my wife.
Very good.
And that is a very good skill to have, that you are bilingual. And can you ask a very good question? Because I remember how, first of all, sometimes as a Russian person, as a Russian interpreter, I help people when they're in the hospital. And I don't do it anymore on the phone, but my daughter Julia did for a long time. So
Mhm.
being on call, and it's such a tough job because people are very stressed out, and it's really a matter of life and death when they wait for a diagnosis, and then they wait for the interpreter to tell them what
Mhm.
is that they are facing. But also remember the moment, how language is very critical. When a couple stopped at my church and they needed social help. So help with some kind of a social situation that they ended in. And I don't have any skills in Spanish, just maybe 2, 3 words. And so imagine we try to communicate in the office and there is no language skill on this young man's side. But gradually, just by listening, I started catching a few words that, how gringos, they can, because it's a Latin foundation. So I was able to at least understand that he needed some help. He needed to go and find social services. And so I just somehow was able to help him. But after that, I told myself, I really need to learn Spanish. And I remember how it's not easy because last year I made a covenant actually as a professional for the second education to study Spanish, and I did not move at all. So now, this year, when we have more time with COVID, I recommitted and I try to take lessons. But question to you. So could you give an example of how critical that language skill was in your work as a nurse? Any maybe story that you could share?
Yes, I have many stories, and I think that they all conclude that you can see people decompress. So I do remember one story where I was a helper in the unit because they had helpers. I was a nurse helper. I would just help everyone, and my charge nurse say, "Hey, there's a Hispanic family in the ER. Let's go see it." She didn't tell me because I was Latino, but because I was a helper. And as soon as I arrived, I saw doctors, nurses, put intubating these like relatively young men, and the wife is standing there, not understanding a word of what's happening. And it was super fast that all I did was sitting next to her and say, "Hey, this is what is happening." And as soon as I opened my mouth in Spanish, you could just see her face just decompress.
Mm.
And she started asking me questions of what's happening, and why is this and why is that. So I got the chance to not help my nurses, my fellow nurses and doctors, but I got to help transition that understanding. So I think that the greatest example is how you see people really decompress when you open your first hola buenos días or hola buenas noches, yo soy, and then like you really see that face just change.
Yeah.
Okay. And I see it not only in the ER, but also like in the floor. As I said, I was assigned to those type of patients, not only per my request, because I like to help that way, but bless you, but because I really think that it's super critical that nurses are trained in other languages, or that at least the unit has access to people like me. Okay. So on the other side, you also have families that as soon as you enter and then you look Latino, I'm not gonna lie, and they think that I am environmental services trying to clean the room.
Oh,
So
yeah.
so that is which is a great, beautiful job that they do too.
Yeah.
But we have all the spectrum of people, and then when you say, "Hey, my name is Miguel, and I'm gonna be your nurse tonight," sometimes you see that confusion. But as I said, being bilingual, it doesn't matter the language. It's just a great and beautiful thing to have, and
Absolutely.
to pass on to your kids, and not only for the beautiful of it, but because you save a couple hundreds of dollars in tuition, right?
Absolutely. And since we are talking about coping, you just gave a beautiful example, very important example of how a second language is actually the tool of distressing a person, calming person down. So also, since we talked about coping as a skill, so imagine what having another language as a skill becomes a double skill, because you help other people in this critical situation as a nurse. So you're kind of a symbiosis of so many skills that are very important. But how personally you cope with all these things, and when you are maybe not having everything that you love to do with your wife, and I know that you are a kind of a sports fan, a football fan. So how does
Yes.
it affect you? Like suddenly everything changed, and you probably thought, and I'm speculating, oh my, I came to America not for that. I came to America to have a life that is full and interesting, and suddenly football fell off, and then many other things. So
Right.
how do you process that?
So as I said, being the nurse really helped me understand the medical perspective, right? So the fact that I didn't want that to be done before. Now it comes to my personal relationship at home with my wife. I think that you have shown a picture of me and my wife in the Sporting Kansas City Stadium.
Right. Yes. So let me
Um,
bring it up. Yes. Go ahead. We'll talk
I
another.
I am gonna say that is the one thing that I can think of that COVID has taken away from us. While it is not important, because the sports at all are important more than people in their health. Okay, it was one of those things that pre-COVID, and I do remember having or going to a game 2020 still. I think it was like around January. I still went to a game, and then we had that, and then we got to it wasn't worth it to continue going. So while it wasn't worth it, it really, we just really stopped doing it, and it kind of took a little bit of a hit for us, but it wasn't really that bad.
Yeah, so we're back here. I tried to show you a picture. And as you notice, we have a very kind of a casual situation, casual talk here when we gather every Saturday. So everybody who is here, our co-hosts, Kendi and Scott, whom you've met. And also, we're here just to ask questions, to learn about our guest, and anything that is particularly important for people to cope right now. You as a person, as a young man who has a young wife, and also lots of family relatives who are in nursing or medical profession. So, what kind of conversations do you have at home? Are they just about nursing, or during COVID you have other topics to discuss?
They're fun conversations because you kind of upscale your talk with my wife, and then as soon as we see a disease, we just start talking about the disease process, and vital signs, and how we compare, But that's, as I said, we have a little bit of a better understanding. We are not experts either, but it's fun to talk about, some topics, when it comes to the disease processes, and they are presenting us in the TV what is happening. If you remember pretty well, back in, I would say probably May, June, that is when the news came about COVID hitting kids with something very similar to the Kawasaki disease. I talked to my wife about it, and I say, "Hey, let's just review what Kawasaki disease is," and then we start talking about it. At that time, I was already working with pediatrics. So yeah, I mean, it is fun, but we are not always talking about, nursing and all those type of things. I feel like we talk about everything like any other couple, about what we're gonna eat for the day, or what do you want to do in pre-COVID times, which I can just count with my hand, walking, bike, shopping on off hours, and probably that's it. I mean, we have been living not fully in isolation, because we do have the need to go to the store to bring food and all that, but we have avoided restaurants. I cannot remember the last time I sat with people in a restaurant or at a restaurant at all, which doesn't affect me. I'm actually happy eating at home or buying food to take home, which is the same thing. And yeah, I mean, talking
So
about
you
all these
didn't
things.
have, yeah. You didn't have any anger, or at least like when some of your friends, and I'm not sure that you have those friends. I do. So some of my friends, for example, challenged me, saying that there is no COVID. It's just maybe a flu, and all those deaths, they do not happen, and people just die to cancer, and they die to heart attacks, and of course other accidents. So if you had a friend like this, how would you talk to those friends? Since you are in science and you're in research and you're a nurse, and then imagine suddenly you have maybe a friend or relative, maybe in Mexico or here, or maybe just simply maybe a colleague who says, "Oh, this is just a fake information. This is not happening." Hoax.
Well, I think that the very first thing that I gotta tell you, say or mention, that is very frustrating to hear
Yeah.
these type of things. It is
Trust me,
very
I know.
frustrating, but it is frustrating and a slap on the face for, and I'm not even talking for myself anymore, because I left the ICU world. I'm talking for my coworkers that I left behind. Coworkers that are having mental breakdowns, and doctors, and like the best word I can describe, those moments is like terrific. Okay, so it's bad. I don't know. I haven't had the opportunity to really face someone that tells me that. I do remember my brother being a non-believer back then, and then he told me, "Oh, it's just kind of the same thing in Mexico." And then he had this idea that the countries, the powerful
Wait. I hear some kind of strange noise, and the cold wind just blows into my face here. I just don't know what's happening. So, oh my gosh, somebody's here, and I don't know who is that knocking at my door.
Oh my gosh, it's Santa.
Santa.
Merry Christmas!
Merry Christmas, Santa.
Oh wow! My goodness, Santa! How did you make it into our studio?
Oh my goodness.
Oh, Lord.
Oh my goodness, Santa! Who are you? How did you come here?
Well, I heard that there was a little boy named Angel and a little girl named Candy, and it's Christmas. So what else do you need but Angel and Candy at Christmas?
You're a little late, bro.
Well, day,
Wow.
what is today? Day 2 of Christmas?
Yeah, okay.
That's
There's
true.
12 days, right?
I told
Yeah.
Mrs. Claus that today she only gets 2 turtle doves and a partridge in a pear tree, but tomorrow she gets 3.
Oh.
Not a bad deal.
3
Okay.
French hens, 2 turtle doves and a partridge.
Yeah.
That's your real. Your beard is real, is it?
Yeah, so it's pretty real, yeah.
Oh wow! So, but why when you started knocking and making this noise, it became so cold? Did you come from the North Pole, really?
Well, I'm at the North Pole.
Oh man.
No wonder it's so cold
We have
here now.
We have to have great internet here. We get requests from children all over the world.
Well, yeah. You should send some snow down to Kansas City.
I imagine it's satellite internet up there.
What happened?
No hard line.
No
Santa,
hard
I
line,
have
no.
a question to you. Since I'm from Russia, we don't have Santa. We have Father Frost.
Right. And I'll
So-
show up there on the 7th of January. Each country's a little different.
Right. So,
Oh wow.
what are you doing now between after Christmas here and then when we have Christmas in Russia?
Oh, well, the toys are running full blast trying to get the toys ready for the Russian children.
Oh wow!
Oh,
So you're
wow.
going to go to Russia too?
Well, of course.
Oh my goodness! And I know that
They
you go
have
to
good
all
little boys
countries.
and girls in Russia.
I know. Santa, may I ask you a question? Because I think, and Angel probably is getting ideas of asking you questions since he is from Mexico, and I don't even know, do they have Santa there? But could you tell us a little story about maybe a child that, I know how many children sit on your lap, and what do they whisper into your ear?
Well, I will tell you, this year I didn't have any children sit on my lap because of COVID.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
This year, the way that Santa met with the children is I had a full face shield instead of a mask because I wanted the children to be able to see my lips. Some children don't have good hearing, and if I cover my mouth, they might not be able to hear me. So they could read lips a little better. But anyway, I had a full face shield, and we sat 6 feet away behind a large plexiglass wall. So the
Oh, wow.
children were 6 feet from Santa, and there was a face mask and a plexiglass wall between Santa and the children. And that was a little heartbreaking, really, for Santa, because in the past, I've had children sit on my lap and tell me things that they're afraid to tell adults. And so not to put us on a downer, but I'll give you a few quick examples. I had a little boy one time whisper in my ear that he wanted a mattress for Christmas so he didn't have to sleep on the floor. And I had a little girl whisper in my ear that if I could please make her mommy quit using drugs.
Oh my.
And I had a little boy tell me that Santa, could you please get my daddy to quit beating up my mommy?
Oh.
And
Oh,
the
Lord.
children are afraid, obviously, to say that to an adult, or they would have told an adult. So when I get those types of requests, what I do, or what I did, was I would say, well, what's your teacher's name? And they would be like, Mrs. Jones. And I'd say, oh, Mrs. Jones, she was such a good girl when she was little. She is always on the nice list. Will you do me a favor? And they would always nod, of course. And I would say, would you please tell Mrs. Jones that Santa remembers her and he knows she's a good girl. And I'm going to tell Mrs. Jones that you're going to come talk to her. And I want you to tell her just what you told me. And Mrs. Jones will help you out.
Yeah.
That is amazing, and I think because on the back of my mind, it was like, oh my gosh, we need to call 800 number, kind of a hotline. But this is a wonderful, creative way to help a child cope and find real help. And this is important because
obviously I can't come back from the North Pole to talk to social services to do things in their local community, but the teachers always know how to do that.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
the child must have been afraid to tell Mrs. Jones this before, or she would have told Mrs. Jones before.
Yeah.
Wow.
So Santa hears a lot of things that children don't like to tell others, because you can trust Santa. You know, you can trust Santa with your deepest, darkest secrets, and Santa has to be prepared to handle those.
Absolutely, and it's like trusting a nurse or a doctor when you are in the hospital.
Exactly.
So Santa, I think, in a way, the nurse of souls and hearts.
The advantage a doctor would have is the doctor would know their name, their address, and how to contact them. And as Santa, I cannot say, well, what's your address? What's your name? Because Santa should know that.
No,
right?
Yeah, right.
Right.
So
That's
you
very
have
true.
to play that off that way.
Very good.
A few of the cute little stories, I don't want to take up your whole time, but one of the ones, since you can see my hat, I had a little boy this year say, why do you have that ball on the end of your hat? And I said, I would really love to tell you that, but it's really a top secret. And I can't, hold on. No, Bernard. No. It's okay. No, the redheaded doll. Yes, the redheaded ones. Yeah, I really appreciate you taking care of that, Bernard. I'll talk to you when I get home. I'm really busy right now. Right. I really appreciate you taking care of that. I'll talk to you as soon as I get home to the North Pole. I wish I could tell you, but I just can't tell you why I have that there. It's a really big secret, and we're not allowed to tell people. And the little boy's like, oh.
So Santa, do you have privacy laws like Angel does with HIPAA? It wasn't that funny.
Oh, we love your laughter, Santa, and so happy that you made it today from the North Pole to our studio. So, Angel, do you have any questions to real Santa?
My biggest question was like two questions on that. Do you have to get vaccinated, and how hard it was this year to deliver your toys?
Oh, well, that's a great question. So let me explain. Our toy manufacturing goes on 24/7 year round, because I can tell you that next year I am going to get a request for Hot Wheels cars, Legos, Barbies. So we are rolling. We know we're going to need those. And just as we talked about earlier, not every country has celebrated Christmas yet. And this is a very busy time of year. People think that after Christmas Eve, Santa can take a vacation. No.
That's what I thought. Okay.
We have to get rolling, because now we have to make sure we can fill all the Nordic countries' wishes and all the Russian countries' wishes. So we're rolling about, and then we have to clean up what happens. Like the doll line, the doll heads fell off, and we had a reject package. And now what do we do with all of those? I have
a question, Santa, to you. Since we have a nurse in the studio, what if you get sick? Where do you find a nurse on the North Pole?
Santa does not get sick. Santa's an immortal. Santa was now you got me all flustered here. St. Nicholas was born in AD 270. So when children ask me how old I am, which is an often asked question, I'll say St. Nicholas was born in 270 in Myrna, which is now part of Turkey. And you have to do the math. It changes every year. I can't keep track. So by the time they figure it out, they're usually gone. But even Dr. Fauci said Santa's immune from coronavirus.
Very good.
And he did. And Dr. Fauci did say that. He was very nice of that. I made sure he knew that, and he announced that for me. And that alleviated a lot of children's concerns when they were coming to see me. They were asking because they would have masks on. I said, you can take your mask off and sit on the other side of the plexiglass wall. And they'd be, well, I'm kind of afraid. And I said, it's okay. The federal government, Dr. Fauci has said Santa is immune.
That is wonderful. What a story. What a story. Thank you, Santa. It is wonderful to have you here. And
Thank
we
you.
hope to have you again in the studio one day. Thank you.
Oh,
Good to see you, Santa.
Bye.
And I'm so glad
you be
you
good
said-
because Santa is
We
still
will be
watching.
good. Yes, thank
And
you.
Scott, you and I still need to talk about that summer of 1987.
Oh man. Oh man.
Okay, Santa.
If you only knew.
We love you.
Wow.
Yikes.
Okay, and that's wow. What
was
appearance today
wonderful.
we
I
have.
wanted to ask him what beard care products he used. My son Jeremy loves his beard, and he actually does buy these products on the internet to keep that part of his manliness presentable. So, yeah.
Wow.
Don't
Yeah,
know.
definitely.
Yes, since we have this appearance surprise, then could you tell us now about how do you celebrate Christmas? Because I don't want to talk about, Santa already said everything about Russia. Seems like he knew about my country, but I don't know anything about Mexico. And do you, Candy or Scott?
No.
Okay. And Hel,
much.
could you tell us
Yeah.
more?
Okay, so of course we do have Christmas. Just to start with, Christmas, let's say that I live 364 days for another Christmas. So Christmas is the biggest thing for me. I envision it. It's always the best day. Okay, so for Mexicans, Christmas it's a little bit of the same. Okay, so it doesn't go too different. The only difference that I would say is that it takes up Christmas is mostly and more celebrated on the 24th. So a quick story is that my wife, or whoever, sometimes asks me, "Hey, what are you doing on Christmas Eve or Christmas night or these titles?" And I'm like, "Is that the 24th or the 25th?" Because for Mexicans, it's the 24th is when we celebrate at night. Okay, the 25th is kind of like to recover, just to eat again, to sleep in, to probably potentially open some gifts, and I'm going to explain why potentially. But the main difference that I have seen in comparison with the last 10 years that I've been in this country, and I do remember the first Christmases when they told me, "Oh, we're going to have Christmas at 6 p.m. or dinner at 6 p.m. or 5 p.m." I was like, "What do you mean?" And it's just like, "Yeah, that is when we do it." And in Mexico, nothing starts until 11 p.m. or midnight. Like nobody eats until then. I think that we start getting dressed at 8 p.m. sometimes to go to mass at 10 p.m. Then we come back home and kind of chit chat a little bit while the food is ready. So we start eating at 11, sometimes midnight, or sometimes a little bit past midnight, because we have some traditions in which we grab baby Jesus, and then we have some singing for him. So this goes as right at 12. So that's a little bit different. So let's say that the party for Christmas for Mexicans does not start until 1 a.m. And then some people go into 7 a.m. or 8 a.m. and that is why I'm saying the 25th is to rest.
That's interesting, yeah, because that reminds me of not Christmas, but New Year celebration, and I hope you can talk about that as well, because this is when we really celebrate it at midnight, and then people stay up whole night. But did you miss your Christmas here then?
Yeah, so if you wouldn't mind just showing the pictures of Christmas in Mexico, there are two pictures that that I want to talk about. So these are just pictures taken out of the internet, but just want to show that this probably is a mass at 10 p.m. or 11 p.m. Okay, you see the nativity, you see the priest, and all those red flowers, which are called Nochebuena for us in Spanish. I can't remember the name in English all these years. It hasn't ever stick to me. But we have mass, okay, and this is something that I believe that I have stopped doing in the United States because either we haven't had a chance, or because other things come across, or because we start celebrating at 6 p.m. Okay, so that is one difference with my country, that we do go to mass sometimes. Not all of us, not all of them, before actually starting the Christmas celebration with your family. And then the second picture, it's just a picture of a couple, and if you wouldn't mind showing it for me. So this is not my family. This is another random picture from the internet. But there is a little joke that goes around Christmas, is that, and not only Christmas, Mexicans are well known to dress up for anything. Like, you see people in universities dressed up as if they were gonna go to the bar at night, or a club at night at 7 a.m. And they are all dressed up. We all do. However, it is funny to me that we dress up to go sit in a living room. because, because that's what we do. Like we dressed up our best thing for the year just to simply go sit at grandma's living room, and that's what we do. And I don't know, and it's always a yearly joke that comes in the internet that says, "Oh, it's about that time to take your suit out to go and sit in your grandma's living room." So, so that is why, So I show it now.
And
I
hell, I have to say, we all can tell you really have a sense of style.
Yes, yes.
Well, it's part of my wife. This was given to me. It has a
Oh
note.
Lord,
So
that's some bling right there, brother.
Yeah. Now, the next thing that I want to share with you all and your audience is what happens around Christmas, because it is not only the 24 party that goes into the 25th. It actually takes place starting potentially December 15. So what happens in December 15 is called something posada. Okay, so posada, spelled Posada. Posada in Spanish means housing, or a house, so to provide housing. So if you wouldn't mind just showing those pictures for me also, so I can. Okay, so to start with, a posada, it's a party that is hosted by one household at a specific night. So let's say that the Garcia household in the neighborhood has to host the posada on December 15th. So it is my responsibility to host the party for my neighbors, and the neighbors come over. And then I don't know, the Hernandez family's turn is on the 16th. So then now the next day we all go to the Hernandez household, and then we keep moving around. So it goes the last posada. It's sometimes the 23rd, but you can also see it on the 24th. So that last posada will probably fit. It depends on the neighborhood. It will probably fit in before church at 10 or at 11 p.m. on that time. And I don't know if it has changed. For Mexicans down there, but the posada is always there. And let me explain what a posada is in in big terms. So I already explained the word and everything. So let's say that the Garcia household has a posada. Okay, so we have a representation of pilgrims. Okay, so we are the pilgrims, the people, the community. Is we are the people, the pilgrims, as I said. Okay, so everybody gathers at the Garcia household. I don't know, 7:45 because the party starts at 8. So, but this time there's a picture in there that shows. I feel like three people. No, that one. It's three people carrying some pilgrims. If you wouldn't mind finding it for me.
Yes, okay, found it.
Okay, so that picture. Okay, so that is Jesus y Maria, or Virgin Mary and Jesus. Okay, so we create these little houses for them, and there's always somebody carrying them. So let's say that that I have to host the first party. So this posada, these pilgrims get to sleep in my house or get to stay next to my tree, and we give a lot of things. During that party we give out piñatas or piñatas, which is the pronunciation in Spanish. We break them. We also give bags of candy, and in those bags you can find fruit sometimes or nuts or something. We give a drink that it's called ponche or punch. It's just ponche. It's hot. So some people actually give it while walking. So let's say that my household is in the corner of the neighborhood, and on the 16th, yeah, that is the ponche. Um, and then the Hernandez family, who are hosting the party in the 16th, live, I don't know, half a mile away, or probably less. In Mexico, all the houses are very close to each other. So on the 16th, we would gather again in my household, pick up this little hut with the pilgrims and with Jesus y Maria, and then walk to the other house. And while walking, we are singing. All right. So upon arrival, and if you put that picture of the door, any of them, I think I have two pictures, any of them will give us a good idea. So as we're walking, we are singing. We are potentially drinking this punch. Sometimes we hold little candles, just kind of represent light in the path. Okay, so yeah, so this picture, it's a representation of how we sing asking for posada. So the posada is pretty much asking for a night stay. Okay, so we are asking for a night stay for Jesus y Maria, right? So we sing and everything, and there's people on the other side of the door. Let's say the Hernandez family is on the other side of the door, and the Garcia's family with all the pilgrims, so all the communities behind me, and we sing. So it's kind of like an exchange of words with singing, and at the end, the last words of the singing, they open the door and they welcome us, and that is where the party starts. We have the posada, we have the piñatas, we have the ponche. Sometimes we give out tamales or cookies or whatever. It's probably like a 2-hour thing. So it goes on and on and on. So 15, 16, 17, 18, all the way to the 24th. That was when I was little. I have heard that because of the economy, this is done fewer times. They might start on the 20th, and then two families join in one party because of the cost for it. And if you leave that picture of the piñata, I have a very funny story because I was the expert of piñata cattle. So by expert, I mean that I had my little gang of kids around me, and I will give instructions. I had the person that was good at beating the piñata and guessing where the piñata was, because for your eyes are covered. And I had that specific person. So let's say Enrique was the good one. So I would give instructions to Enrique, say, Enrique, like, you got to break that piñata. And I was the person who was risking my life jumping into the piñata, because then all the kids will jump on top of me to try to catch something for them. But I had my little gang who would jump on me to protect me, so I don't get things stolen by other kids that were not part of my gang or my kids. Whatever. I had one situation, and I remember it very vividly. My heater, my like the person who broke the piñata, hit a carton made piñata. So those were the most fun ones because they last forever. But he hit it right at the neck. So by hitting it right at the neck, it just literally just fell. The entire piñata just fell completely onto the ground. And it was like those 5 seconds of, this has never happened before. What do we do now? And then me as the leader, I run into it. I grab the piñata whole, and I start running around the street with the piñata on my hands. And I had all the kids behind me, running behind me, and my gang protecting me that the kids wouldn't catch me. So this is a picture of the candies that we give out. That bag, we call it colación. It's kind of like a collective of candies and fruit that you can see, and there's a couple oranges in there and nuts and everything. So that is how we kind of kick off, or how I remember kicking off Christmas, and it was a lot of fun. And I was well known, even my own aunts and uncles, sometimes, because we would break 3 or 4 piñatas. So they didn't want little Angel catching all the piñatas, right? So I had family members holding me so I wouldn't run with the piñata. So I was at some point disqualified but I had my little gang that would represent me in taking the candy. So at the end, we would just split them among us, and yeah, it was fun. They were fun times. Yeah. So,
sounds like you have a skill set that you could carry into retirement as kind of a side hustle, maybe.
Yeah, and it's very interesting because sometimes I am driving with my wife in some of the neighborhoods around, and I mentioned to her, and I said, this street would be a very good posada street, because all the houses are, especially those circle ones.
Yeah.
There's like a circle drive in the middle, and there's like 10 houses around it. That just makes the perfect one, because then you kind of start on December 15. However, due to the culture of us just hiding ourselves after 5 p.m. and never leave the house, and sometimes we don't even know our neighbors that well. Yeah, but I would love to see something like that in the United States. I'm not saying that it doesn't happen. I'm sure it happens somewhere. Some Latino neighborhood it happens, but
not only Latino neighborhood. Let me tell you a story, Angel and Candy and Scott. When I came to America as a minister, and imagine I miss my Russian traditions, and I miss my Russian New Year and Christmas, and here I am in Edwardsville, Kansas. And it was Edwardsville United Methodist Church. And one of the older members, Barbara, she said, Pastor, it's November. It's traditional time for our pasada piñatas. I had no idea what she was talking about. I had no idea what pasadas is. I had a slight idea about piñatas because my son was at that time, Pasha was a teenager. So I knew what piñata is. But pasadas, and imagine all I needed to do, I was told to show up. And I was told that we will go from house to house. Imagine what I saw. You talked about community. My son and I arrived, and it was like 4 police cars and about 100 of kids and adults. And then to my surprise, we started walking away from the church, not toward the church. And like you said, we walked from house to house. And then I've learned that people already know this tradition and they like to participate in that. And those are not Mexican people. And so we will go from house to house. And then we knock, and then children will sing a song. But the person who lives in the house does not open the door and screw through the screen door, sings a song back, and says there is no place in the inn. And I need to tell you something. Toward the end, like we went through like 6 houses, I was so depressed because nobody let us in. And I started sensing that spirit, how you are not welcomed, how you are not invited, and how people just simply throw you away. And then children were going with these little candles in their hands. And it's in America, in Kansas. And so then imagine then we turn around with this police and, lights, and then we come back to the church. And what a meaning. The church doors are open and the lights are on and children are invited in, and then we sing songs, and then we have a piñata party. And then exactly what you described, that was a madhouse. The church was just a madhouse. But I'm not really, I was listening to you and I thought, I was a part of that, but here, not in Mexico yet.
It gets pretty professional, let me tell you. like I was, as I said, quote unquote, I would risk my life because most of these piñatas are made out of clay. So just imagine a clay breaking on the floor and you're throwing your body into the clay. You could get hurt no matter what, but we didn't care as kids. We were just kids. And then I was known to be one of the leaders of the little piñata posada gang that would get all the candies. I would get requests of kids to join me. It was kind of like a little fun thing to do,
It's amazing.
Something that I do have to say also, and I'm gonna make a quick comparison with what happens with what's it called, like in November celebration, and the Halloween.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so you know how Halloween is for kids to go ask for candy, right? So it's kind of like a family time, but we also have younger people than me still have like adult parties. They go to house and they throw a party where there's like all sorts of things. So with posadas, you can also find that. Okay, so there's like younger people that decide to have a posada. They have food, and the difference is that they don't have ponche, or if they have ponche, they have the extra adding to make the party live type of thing, So they will have like adult beverages. Let's put it that way.
Yes.
And then so I attended a couple of them, but I have always been a family moral type person. Okay, yeah, I like going, but it wasn't the same. It wasn't the same ponche and the tamales. It was, and with all these fiestas or parties, everything ended up in any other regular party. Where people were all fuzzy and stuff like that, But yeah, they do have, I would say, adult posadas or office posadas. Or
It is adult posada. I thought it's just for children.
No, definitely. I mean, the same way some people.
Can you maybe next year, and Scott, we will go from door to door.
Yeah. I mean, I love the normal posadas. I wish there was something that my neighbors would do, but it's a concept that I feel like you have to live first to really grab the idea to love it.
Right.
And if kids were exposed to this here in America, then we will be talking about something different. Of course, not on COVID times, but but it will be something totally different, totally fun. I don't know. That's probably one of my American dream things,
I think
That's beautiful to
I
do
would
with that.
support you in that.
And I think it's very community based.
Right.
And
It is very
brings,
community-based.
Yeah, people in our community were I served for 5 years. For 5 years, I celebrated it. And this is right when the Christmas tree is set up in the church. I believe it was end of November, beginning of December. But everybody, the whole community, not just the church, was there. So you're right. That's a very nice celebration.
So yeah, so it's still talking about this Christmas thing. Like previously, a couple minutes ago, I mentioned that potentially kids get gifts. Okay, and I say potentially, maybe I'm not sure what's happening now, but when I was a kid, Santa was not our biggest gifter.
Yeah.
Okay, so Santa
What?
was like an extra gift, kind of like the preview of the big one. Okay, and if you wouldn't mind, Lydia, showing Santa with the three kings picture, please, for me. So
Okay. So that's a sort of a cartoonish picture.
yeah, like the cartoon.
Okay.
So what happens with that is that back in the day with me, Santa was not my biggest gifter. Okay, I don't know if it's the same thing. It wouldn't surprise me if it's still the same. So the three kings, these three kings can be found in the nativity scene. Okay, they are the three kings that give to baby Jesus, and for us is the 6th of January. I think the
Right.
6th or the 7th. I'm almost sure that is the 6th of January. So they are our biggest gifters. So
Ah.
there's always a battle between Santa or los tres Reyes Magos, because that's what we call them, the
Ah,
the three kings. And
interesting.
you would hear the mom or dad saying, "Oh, no, 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 we cannot give you anything in Christmas because the tres Reyes Magos are coming." You see, so that is our biggest
Nice.
celebration, and it kind of matches very nicely because we would start classes back for the spring semester back around that time. So some kids, including myself, would get to take our freshly open gifts to school, and you would share with kids and be like, "Hey, this is what the Tres Reyes Magos brought me this morning," or whatever. So it was kind of like a very nice thing to do. And the same way we have the tradition of putting a stocking here or a sock. In Mexico, we leave a shoe. So like a random left or right shoe, we leave it under the tree. So that is the indication that where our gifts would be, and then we put our letter inside the shoe and go to bed.
Interesting.
See?
That is very interesting. Do you have other traditions around
Yeah.
Christmas?
So the other tradition was like you show that picture of that bread.
Okay, this
So
one.
yeah, so that's called a rosca. Okay, rosca, like a ring, almost. It has the shape of. It's a very delicious bread, and if you wouldn't mind showing another one with some kind of like white little figures for me, it's also a rosca.
Oh, okay.
Um, that rosca is something that we eat the night of the 5th, right? That one,
Oh.
the night of the 5th or the 6th. That same night that the Reyes Magos are supposed to come with the gifts. Okay, so quick fun story also is that those little figures represent baby Jesus. Okay, and then some bakers actually, when they bake their dough, before actually baking it, they insert those little plastic inside the bread, and then it gets baked like that. Okay,
But wait
so
a second. Then it reminds me of a baby Jesus in a Mardi Gras cake. Similar. Is it similar?
I wouldn't be able to tell you that with certainty, but so
Interesting.
now there's a little game to this. So these baby Jesuses are sneaked into the bread, and you go ahead with your family and cut the bread with some coffee or some warm milk, whatever. And then if you get to cut the baby Jesus or feel that you are starting to cut the baby Jesus, you have to take that piece and explore it first, because you don't want to eat the baby Jesus plastic, right? So
For several
just
reasons.
But what
right,
if you talk with baby
but
Jesus?
but if your piece happens to have the baby Jesus, then the tradition continues, and then you are supposed, or not obligated, but you are pretty much obligated to buy tamales for everybody. I think it's February the 2nd, if I'm not wrong. That is how much it carries
Wow.
this tradition. So if you get the baby Jesus, you buy tamales for everybody some day in February. I think it's the 2nd. I can't remember now, top of my head.
So does it mean that if you are the one who get a piece of this bread with baby Jesus, that it is a sign of luck and fortune?
I would say more like unluck.
Luck. Interesting.
Because you don't want to get to buy like the tamales or make them, but it's kind of like a fun thing to do. It's just like now the fun thing here is that in my 10 years in the United States, I have never, and I have bought several of them, have never had the baby Jesus plastic figures inside the bread, and for obvious reasons. We
That
are in
is
a country
very
that don't want to risk ourselves for a lawsuit or something.
Yeah, true.
So
Complicated.
the other day, the last year, I bought one with Lucy, and I started cutting it. And I was like, "What the hell? There's nothing." And sometimes you have, and I have found the baby Jesus on the side, like literally laying on the side of the bread in the box. And my first thing is like, what am I supposed to do with this? These
Yeah,
these are
right.
supposed to be hidden already. Now I know where I'm gonna hid them or hide them. So kind of like the bubble breaks, and then you decide to not follow that tradition. So I wish that some bakeries here would put them inside and make us on a waiver or something, that they're not responsible or something, because it's a fun thing. I mean, you don't go blind and start eating a bread knowing that there's a piece of plastic inside. No, you actually break the bread, explore the bread, and when you're sure that there's no plastic little Jesus, then you eat it, right? So that's why I wish we had something like this, and then it carries all the way into, as I said, the posadas. 15 of December, it carries all the way, and then you see these little celebrations. The 24th is our biggest one. Then go to the 6th of January, which is the Tres Reyes Magos, biggest gifters, into the rosca, and then into the tamales, and then you do it all over next year.
That's amazing. That actually gives me an idea. Tell me if I'm wrong. Recently, I was reading a book about happiness.
Okay, cool.
And the author was talking about what happiness is and how people experience happiness, but then he gradually led it to the sort of analysis comparing different countries and where people say that they are happy. And so, of course, you expect that people will say in countries, developed countries like America, that people are very happy. Surprisingly, people in the third world countries were much happier than people in America. And why is that? Now, when I hear what you say, I think Mexican people are people of community, people of supporting each other, celebrating. So I think wealth and prosperity does not actually add to happiness. So that's what I hear. And I don't say that all people in Mexico are necessarily poor, but the country by itself is not, of course, equal to, in terms of wealth and level of affluence, is the same as America. So, but people are much happier. So, and I'm from the country where people even don't smile. And that doesn't mean that they're unhappy. We had lots of
Right.
celebrations. It's just cultural. But so tell me, does it resonate to you as the true statement?
Well, I would say it's some sort of truth to that. I do agree with you that every country has its way to be happy. Um, we Mexicans, at least, and we find happiness in little things. Okay, so you see the kids being happy with a carton box as a gift, and you know, I did have the big luck or pleasure, whatever we want to call it, of being born in two different family households. Okay, one side of my family was rich. The other side of my family was poor. And I can tell you that I would not like to go back to my rich family side because it wasn't as fun. It wasn't. My happiness was eating with my hands on the floor and playing soccer on the streets, risking our lives with the cars coming into traffic and all that. You know, that is where my happiness was. It was never with the material things, and I would never do it again. I would not like my kid to go through that. A quick example of that, and that it doesn't have to do anything with Christmas or anything. When I was in kindergarten, I told my grandpa on my rich side, and I said, "Hey, grandpa, I need a carton made uh, box, or like a car made out of carton box." That was a project. And what my family did, they bought me a car. I was the happiest child that day because I saw all these kids with their carton box cars. So cool, so insignificant for other people, but for us, they were like, "Man, you got to do that." I got to buy it. Well, someone bought it for me. So I mean, true to that, another thing that is true is that Mexicans in general, we suffer like anybody else, like in this country, in this world. I think that the difference is that we laugh a lot about our disgraces. We make fun of our disgraces sometimes, not always, So we find a lot of joy in laughing, in making a meme out of something, or something, I think that currently with this current situation, if it was not because of some jokes on the internet, I think that I would not have the same spirit when it, through COVID, and I mean, as I said, there's some truth to that some countries tend to find happiness in different things. I feel like we as kids here or humans in America, we have our own ways. It depends on your family. I'm very lucky to have a family that enjoys Christmas, that enjoys family time and all that, and we find pleasure in little things too.
Is your family here with you now? Or are they all still in Mexico?
I am the only one in the United States from my Mexican family in Mexico, because I have Mexican family here. My wife is Mexican too.
Sure.
And her family, we are with that. But yeah, I am not alone. I can say that I'm alone because I have my family here, which her family is my family. Right. But yeah, I am pretty much the only one here.
Right.
And this is probably very tough, especially when you cannot travel. Because traveling is another thing that cannot happen now. But I'm so glad that you have such a supportive family here, large family. And as I know, your mother-in-law's side of the family is from Kansas. And this family has a tradition of over 100 years. And I remember the picture that I saw that women in your family, your Lucy's, I believe your wife's grandma worked building airplanes during the World War II. So this Hispanic community here in Kansas, and the name of the city town is Newton, right?
Yes, yeah, you're right.
Yes, and so women from this family and men made such a great impact on this city's life, and also just a large family. And I know how much your family loves to go back and celebrate. And so this spirit of celebrating probably, I'm sure, helps you to cope with not being able to go back to see the family or have the family over here for Christmas and New Year. So we wish you the best.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, definitely. Christmas. I don't think I have spent Christmas with my family in Mexico probably for the last 5 years, maybe. That because of the circumstances at work or something different, like my plan was to go this year, but then COVID hit. Who knows what's going to happen next year, but I feel like I have learned how to cope well with it. Because for me, it is not one night. It is being in contact with them. And hey, I have a Mexican family here too. Everybody that identifies as a Mexican with me or as a Latino, doesn't matter if you speak the language or not, you are welcome. I mean, my wife and I cooked tamales yesterday. And we're eating tamales for the next 3 days probably, but so
Maybe one day we can have you back with your wife, and you can show us like a cooking party during our cooking time, right, Candy? That will be very interesting. Yes.
More like she did it herself.
That's right.
I help with the hands and the.
Yes, that's good.
But yeah.
This is wonderful to have you, Angel. And thank you for being our guest. Thank you for sharing. And what a broad spectrum you just opened for us today, from nursing, from teaching Spanish. And could you say a few words about your Spanish for nurses? What is that concept? Because I've learned that the way you teach Spanish is sort of, as I titled it, customized approach. So it seems like you customize your teaching methods to each student. So how do you do that? It's so probably takes so much time from you.
Yes. Well, part of the essence of my Spanish PRN, that is what is called Spanish PRN, is to talk to the individual. Let's say a nurse. When we talk about nurses, we talk about 30 floors. So I like to investigate what the current needs of that nurse are and focus on them. Okay. So in other words, if I have a nurse that works in med search, I am not going to teach her ER topics or ICU topics. I'm going to focus my energy in med search topics, so he or she is able to conduct himself or herself in the language and help them. The same thing for doctors. I have doctors that work in the ER. I have doctors that work in the clinic or that are family physicians. I'm not going to teach my family physician ER topics or how to tell a wife that he's about to intubate the husband or a kid or anything, so it's pretty customized. I know I do not only cover medical topics, I cover general Spanish. So with the general Spanish, it's like everyday Spanish, in which I take a look at your level. I take a look at what you like to talk about, because my training, it is not based on a textbook. It is based on what you know and what you do not know. So we start building from there. And then the two skills that I enforce is speaking and listening. I don't remember the last time I practiced writing or reading with someone, specifically to learn a language. Of course, I include them randomly, but it is not the focus of it. But in general, yeah. So it's pretty customized. I talk to the person first, and I get a vague idea of what they're looking for. Okay, and as I said, I think that what really helps me is to have that ICU experience, because that's the highest level of care, and everything down, it should be well taken care of. Okay, so every single job is important as usual, and yeah, it goes from there. It's pretty customized. We meet on a weekly basis. It is on the internet. It is audio. Sometimes I do audio and video, but most of the time is audio, and then we practice scenarios. Okay, so let's say that I am Mr. Gonzalez with chest pain. So if I have my ER doctor, who in real life is an ER doctor, I tell them my symptoms in Spanish and say, hey, I'm having chest pain. So he's supposed to conduct his visit in Spanish. And I think that that has helped them very, very, very much because they have learned how to trust their knowledge and not to be afraid of opening their first word in Spanish. Of course, there's a couple tricks because at any language, as soon as you say "Hola, buenos dias," the Mexican will assume that you're an expert in Spanish and they start just like burping words at you.
Yeah.
So there's a couple tricks, that I teach them just to stop them pretty much from burping all those words and then have a more like organized conversation per se that you don't normally see in the ER or the ICU, and stuff like that, or anywhere. But
Yeah.
so
And
that
this
is
is
what
what
I,
is important. Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you. This is what I think is important because what I hear is you do not teach, for example, cardiologists something about anesthesiology because they need to know particularly in their field, and that speeds up their training. So I think this is
Right.
very essential. Yeah. Thank you
Yeah.
so much. But
Yeah.
could you tell our audience how to find you if we have some nurses in the audience? So how can they find you? How can they contact you? Could you maybe tell us maybe your email address or phone number?
The email address, it is Spanish PRN, so like letters PRN and at gmail.com. So Spanish PRN at gmail.com. They email me with their interest in continuing learning or started learning, and I take it from there. And then I just welcome them. And
So did I put it right? Span PRN?
Spanish PRN.
Spanish. Put an ISH.
Spanish. Okay.
PRN, yeah, Spanish PRN at gmail.com. That
Okay,
is,
so like this, right?
yes, exactly.
Okay, thank you. And we just, if people call us and ask about how to find you, we will give you your address. Thank you. And appreciate your time, appreciate your humor, appreciate your to hear about your family traditions and about your culture, and of course about your family story. Good luck to you. God bless you, and we hope to see you again one day.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you.
Stay healthy.
Bye
Okay.
now.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.